Richard Stewart was a British cricket star in the 1960s, playing for Middlesex. Good enough to be a homegrown player, and yet this Windrush child can't get a British passport.
I feel as a second-class citizen, really. That's all I'm down as, But you get used to it. Being back, we get used to it, so we accept it in a way. Though it's not right, there's nothing we can do about it.
Now 73, he's deemed an illegal. It's a bitter rejection from a place he's called home since he was 10 years old.
I'm more angry about it and disappointed because the fact is that when I was playing cricket, I was classified as a homegrown player, not overseas player. So I come all of a sudden, I'm an overseas player.
At Prime Minister's questions, Mrs May apologised again to the Windrush children.
I want to say sorry to anyone who has been caused confusion or anxiety.
There was no getting away from Labour's attempt to lay the blame at her door for the destruction of Windrush documentation, but she was ready with a zinger of her own, trying to shift the blame onto Labour.
Did the Prime Minister, the then Home Secretary, sign off that decision?
Prime Minister.
No, the decision to destroy the landing cards was taken in 2009 under a Labour government.
But whenever the decision was taken, the documentation belonging to the scores of names on these lists from the National Archives were destroyed by a department under her watch. The accusation now is that she lost sight of British people in her pursuit of meeting immigration targets. After days of trying to clean up the mess, today the blame game began over who's responsible for the destruction of landing cards. But be under no doubt, the buck here stops with Theresa May, focus now shifting towards the tightening of immigration laws when she was Home Secretary. She had a policy of creating a hostile environment for illegal immigrants. But the problem was she caught up a number of innocent citizens in that net. David Lammy's parents were Windrush children. He now sits in the same parliament as Mrs May.
All political parties, people recognise that this has been a whole episode of shame. And actually, the policy that sits behind it, creating a hostile environment, having a go at immigrants, is something that now needs proper, comprehensive review.
Does it sometimes feel a bit lonely in the Commons when you feel like you're the person that has to stand up and make these arguments because there's so many people in there that just don't have any agency with these sorts of issues?
Look, when I stood up, I'm really summoning up my parents, who aren't with us anymore, but I know that they would expect me to speak up. And I know how proud they were of this country and how sad they would be of this moment. We've not got to the place that we need to as a nation.
Here in Bristol, those who are part of the Windrush generation have lived this history and painted it on their city walls. 113 cases are now being investigated by the Home Office, while Mr Lammy has called for a parliamentary debate next week. Dozens of lives disrupted, plenty more fallout and plenty more stories to tell. Beth Rigby, Sky News.